Hello and welcome to our weekly wisdom interview series. I am so excited today because we have a super special guest with us today. We have Victor Vento, who is amazing at how to grow your business, get you more clients with social ads. And he has been sought out after by high impact coaches, consultants, owners, operator businesses to help them get profitable and scale without losing money on social media and ads. Because I know, as someone who years ago when I first started out, tried to run ads myself, it is so easy to not do it the right way. So I am excited to have Victor here with us to share that with us. Victor, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in this.
Sure. So that's a cool, fun story. I come from like a software development gaming background, right? Like I went to college when I grew up playing games. I'm a huge like gaming person. I was the kid that was like, I loved playing outside, but like if I could, I would spend the day gaming too. So like that's how I grew up. Went to school for game design and development. Very quickly found that my like I really thrived in creating the storyline for a lot of the games that the projects that I was a part of during that school. And that eventually, led me into like software development and creating more of like a user experience, and then eventually led into marketing. And that's where we are today, right? And that's really what marketing is about, creating the end user experience and making it to where they can choose their own adventure. Still get to the same end goal, but how they get there is up to them. Like we can't force someone to do something, but we can guide them there as best we can.
Yes, I love that. And, we all need a little guidance along the way.
Yep.
And so I know you work with a lot of people, making 7 figures and 8 figures and helping them to use ads to scale. So what do those people do? The successful people who have already made a consistent income, are really wanting to scale their business. Share with us some of the things that they're doing to.
Sure. So there's a lot that can be done, and it's very individualized. However, here's the groundwork before running any type of social ads or paid traffic or anything like that. At least when it comes to like Facebook, Instagram, places like that, I can't really speak to the other social platforms because I don't necessarily advertise on them. However, I believe it's pretty much the same. What I believe here is ads, from what most people believe, are not the magic pill to fortune. They're not the magic pill to like millions of dollars and everything like that. What they will do for you is they will amplify what you already have. So if you have a terrible sales process or a terrible product or service, or your lead generation already organically isn't the way you'd want it to be, like it's lacking, then when you run ads to that, it's going to do more of that, right? So if you have a process dialed in, and that's the most important piece, once you have a proven process to like attract people, convert people, that running ads to that, putting some paid traffic behind that will amplify that even more.
Yeah, and I love how you say that it's there to amplify what you already have, because I think a lot of people coming in and starting out are thinking, well, I just need to go run some ads or get what I want. But
I'm one funnel away. Yeah.
Yes, we all love Russell, but
yeah, exactly.
There's the time and the place. So tell us a little bit more about what you believe is the right time to run ads. You kind of alluded at it a little bit. You've got to have some processes in place. You've got to
Sure. So obviously the first thing is you have to have a service and a product that you can deliver on and get results with, right? If most people fall into that category, they have something that they know they can help people with, make an impact with on their lives or business. And then the next piece after that comes, we have to understand the messaging, right? That's the unsexy stuff that people don't like to talk about, is like the messaging. We have to know and be the voice inside our customer's head. We have to know what they're thinking, what keeps them up at night. And even though it sounds like a broken record and you've heard it before, it's so easy to do. At the same time, it's so easy to ignore because it's so like bland. It's like blah, right? It's no one wants to do that. They're like, well, I can just run an ad and get people to like, hey, jump on a call with me because we're going to heal your life. I'm like, what does that even mean? Right? No one, people are just going to be like, I don't care. Like when we're on social, as horrible as this may sound, everyone is thinking with the mentality of what's in it for me, especially when they see an ad and they interact with an ad. Like, what's in it for me? If I'm not going to get anything out of it, I'm not going to give you the time because I don't know you. And if we bring it back to when, let's say, like even like before this whole pandemic thing, when people networked in person, if you were to walk up to a stranger, you wouldn't say like, hey, can I heal your life? You wouldn't say that to somebody because you don't know that person. You don't know the context of their life right now. But that's what we're doing with ads. That's what most people do with ads if they start off. They're like, hey, can I heal you? I don't even know you, right? So like you wouldn't do that in-person interaction with a real person. Like take how you would interact with a real person, bring that into an ad. That like your ad is essentially you meeting someone face to face and saying hello. It's an icebreaker.
That's a great way to look at it. And, it's so interesting how, well, some people do go, I call it the puking Pamela, like I'm just going to give you all my services and everything I do, even when they're in person.
Yeah, like, and some people do that networking. It doesn't really work though, right?
No,
so like it's amplified when you put paid traffic behind it. You're getting meeting a lot more people and doing the same thing, and you're getting a lot more of not working. So
right, and so it's creating that connection, creating that, making them feel like you're talking to them, but not talking at them, right? So,
exactly.
So what are some of the tips that you can give somebody who's maybe just starting off with ads? Like, what's one of the first things that they need to think about?
So, okay, perfect. That's a great question. So one of the first things to think about really when they're starting with ads is first you have to identify like what your end goal is, right? Are you wanting to get someone on a call with you? Are you wanting them to sign up for like a master class, a webinar, training, an event? Like what is that end goal? We have to start from the end and we work our way backwards, right? And this is what I talk about when we create that choose your own adventure experience. Some people are going to take you up on it immediately. Some people are going to take a little roundabout way. They'll join your list, but they might not join the masterclass or training or event or anything right now. Maybe after they get to know you a little bit. So we start from there at the end. What is that end goal? Let's say it's book a call with somebody. Then we can go backwards. What are we going to do on the call? Are we going to help them overcome some kind of mindset shift? Or we help them overcome some kind of leak in their business or in their life or whatever that could be? Okay, so like, what happens before that? Where do they need to be before they can actually, how do they get like ready to talk to you? So then we move into that next step, more of the middle step is like, so where do they need to be? What can we give them to get there? Right? Because people want something and what they need is usually something different. One of the examples I love using is fitness, right? People want to be fit, but what they need is like a diet plan or a nutrition plan, some kind of lifestyle change often, but that's what they need. It's not what they want, but what they want, the end result. So if we look from that end piece, we want to book a call to help them solve this problem, then what happens? How do we get them ready for that? That's what they need. And then from what they need, we create, what do they want from that? What is the end result? Like, what do they want from it? And we can create some kind of lead magnet now, or some kind of cookie, as I like to call it, to give them. Because now we've made the first step and we're saying, like, here's what's in it for you. Here's a cookie, and that cookie is going to give you what you want. It's going to give you a cookie, and because everybody wants cookies, right? And then once they take the cookie, you can say like, hey, would you like some milk with that? And that would be like your offer, your call. You don't need it, but it will make your experience better because it's going to give you more of what you want and underlyingly solve what you truly need.
Yeah, I love that analogy because not everyone wants the milk too. And so it kind of plays into, you're going to hit what the right people for you want next.
Exactly.
Right. So some people just want the cookie and they want to walk away and that's all they want.
Yeah.
And then other people are like, no, I need I need to wash this down. I need to like dip it. I need.
Exactly. You know, like I want to like turn the Oreo and dip it and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and like eat just the cream filling for now, and then like, you know, whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
I you can tell I have kids because I talk a lot in like analogies like that. So that's
I can relate. It's our kids teach us so much.
yes.
It's fun. But what can somebody expect if they're running ads, for the first time and they're not used to it?
Sure. Expect what you're investing in truly is data. And it's one of the fastest ways to understand whether your messaging is right or wrong or slightly off or not. Because people expect, like I mentioned earlier, most people expect, like I turn on ads, I have a good working, for example, service, I have a good product here and a good sales process for them to walk through, and it's going to amplify that, right? So I'm going to put it out there, put an ad out there, and it may not hit exactly right the first time. And then most people say like, oh, it doesn't work for me. And I'm sure you've heard that, you've experienced that. You're like, oh, it didn't really work for me. I don't think those work. How do those other people do it? So here's what you're truly doing. You're buying data. You're investing into data that's telling you, you're literally paying for the market to tell you, I want this or I don't want this. And it may just be how you initially positioned that cookie. If you say like, hey, do you guys want a cookie, or do you guys want a Girl Scout cookie? Like there's a difference in how you've said that, and people might want one over the other, and people will resonate more with one over the other. So a problem that I often see is, you know, in my case with the people that we work with on our private agency side of things, I often put something out there like the cookie is, are you having trouble scaling your ads, right? They're already running them. They need to scale them. And every time you scale, you start raising the budget and you increase the ad budget, and then things start going to crap and it starts getting way more expensive. So I'm speaking more to that person where they're at. And they're like, yeah, I want that solved. I want to scale this, but I don't know how. So I provide resources to do that. And then on the back end, I offer a triage call on that particular ad campaign that they're doing. And that allows me to look into them to see if it even makes sense to work. Or sometimes it's just like hey, just do this way, and that's it for them. But on the front end, right, I'm speaking directly to that person and their problem and pain point and what they want. What they need is probably someone to kind of look at it differently. But what they want is just to be able to raise the budget and scale it.
Awesome. That's so helpful in understanding kind of the process and how you kind of step in and help people with some of that. If you're watching us live, please, if you have questions for Victor, put them in the chat. Let us know you're there. Victor, a couple more things. So how does somebody know when it's the right time to start running ads in their business? Do you have like a specific phase of business, or where do you recommend people start introducing ads?
So once you have a handful of clients, I feel like that is a good starting point. You don't necessarily need an agency, right? Don't fall into the trap of like, oh, I just want someone to do it for me. Not yet, because you don't understand it yourself yet either. Most people need to understand what's happening back there so that they don't get bamboozled, right? So they don't have like a one funnel away graduate agency that comes around and it's like, hey, yeah, we can do it. And then they're using your dollars to train themselves. We don't want that happening for us and for you. So what ends up the best thing to do is there's a lot of good resources out there, but you can start very simply. If you can come up with $200 a month, you can have an ad budget to run $200 a month. It'll be $5 a day. And you can simply start something and start to test, right? You can test slow and steady. And that's one of the most effective ways to do it, because now you can start to understand what's happening and you can start to understand the data. Now, how you read that data is a different story, right? That's a little bit further along, but you can at least start to get some initial results and some initial reactions going from that, and start to understand how that goes. Then you start to scale it up, and then you start to get to a point where like, now we delegate and elevate, right? You don't necessarily need to be there behind the scenes all the time. You can find, for example, an intern, or you can bring like a VA or someone on to kind of manage it for you internally, and then you can start to grow and scale, and then eventually you can work with an agency if needed.
Awesome. And I know you have, coming from your background of being a software developer, and now this is your full-time income. And one of the groups that I'm sharing this in is my Inspired to Resign group, which is helping people go from employee to entrepreneur. So can you just share with people a little bit about that journey for you and how you did it?
Sure. That's a fun one. So I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a very straightforward person. I'll tell you how it is, because I don't like to sugarcoat things, because it just doesn't really help anybody. So when I was in software development, that was my last job. I was, I did it was like we were like, it was like, I think it was like an 8-figure company. It was like either a multi-7-figure or an 8-figure company. I don't remember, but we were just a team of 10, right? Like, you can grow that big with a team of 10.
Yeah.
Okay, like, yes, it's possible. However, what I was doing there was creating more of the user experience. I was very straightforward with them when I was trying to transition out of it. And that's because of the type of employee I was already with them. Like, I came in and started the relationship that way. When I interviewed, I was like, hey, so how did I do on the interview? Like, I don't care whether I get it or not at this point. Like, this is like closing that discussion. I want to know what you felt and what you think about me. And the owner was like, I've never had anyone do that. So we started the relationship that way. I was already like that type of person. As I was there, my wife and I, girlfriend at the time, decided to move from California to Colorado. This was 5-6 years ago. And so what we ended up doing was, I walked in to the HR office. Her name was Liz. And I said, hey, in about like 9 months from now, we're looking to move to Colorado. And I want to make sure, like, I'm making an offer to you. And I said, I would love to continue working with you guys. Would you guys be open to doing something remote and trying it that way? If not, I want to give you enough of a heads up. Like, I want to stay here up until I have to leave, but I want to give you guys enough time to heads up to find someone. And if I need to train them in what I'm doing, I can do that for you guys too. And it gives me enough time to look for something over there. And like, very straightforward. They were completely open to it. They said, sure, let's do remote. Before remote was a cool thing to do and like forced upon everyone, right? But that's how I transitioned and started that transition. So I was over here, I moved to Colorado, and then I did the remote thing for several months. I finally, I told them, I was like, hey, I'm starting this other business here, starting it this way. This is not affecting what I have for you guys. Just know that in a few months, I might ask to move to halftime, or if you guys want to part, we can do that too. We actually ended up moving to halftime. I worked part-time for them, and they brought someone on that I was partly training too, to transition and make that transition out of that role, and help that other person get trained up to what I was doing for them. And then eventually, like, it just very easily transitioned out of it, and I went full-time, right? I had a handful of clients, and I was getting to the point where it was almost overwhelming. And I had, again, another stern conversation with them, very honest conversation, not stern. And I was like, all right, so I'm open to keep going into the end of the year. I think it was June by that point. And I say, I'm open to doing this the rest of the year, or we can, like, in a few months stop this, or we can stop next month, or whatever that looks like. And then they said, let's give us some time to think about it. And in July, they came back and they're like, we'd like to make this the last month. And I'm like, sure, that's perfect. Then on August 1st, I was like completely on my own at that point, which was both scary and exciting at the same time, right? Because I had like 2 clients at that point. And I was like, just enough to like kind of supplement my income. And then it's just started going from there. But that was that transition, right? As long as I'm honest and open, I was able to keep that going and make the transition smooth.
That's awesome. I mean, you have like the ideal situation where you could you
Yeah.
had these direct conversations with them. They were very open to the possibilities. And I think that's, a good lesson for people, that you had to actually have the conversation with them. I think so many people are afraid to even have that conversation to say, is this a possibility? And so it sounds like it was really flexible. It kind of worked all in your time frame, and you were able to make that transition out. That's awesome.
Right. And again, like, I think the biggest thing there for most people to hear, the most important thing, if you get nothing else from this, is give yourself enough time. Most people might not experience that same situation. They might not get the same, they'll be like, okay, cool, you want to leave? Like, when do you want to leave? And then you're like, oh crap, I wasn't ready for that. Plan ahead, right? I was already planning, if they said no to that and they wanted to end it sooner, I needed to start looking for something then. I was already looking for something else just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just me covering my own, because they're human too. That's a person on the other side you're talking to, right? It's not a mean person. It's not a corporation. You're talking to a person on the other side. And as long as your relationship with your work environment is good, then you're going to be fine. Most people are understanding. They understand what you want to do. They're like, yeah, I want to start this. It won't affect what I do. And it did not affect what I did. So make sure that obviously that doesn't do that either. It stays true to your word, but that's one of the most important things there.
And I think that's critical too, because if they know you're doing something else and they start to see you falter on things, like it's just going to be an easy no for them the next time something comes up. We want to go part-time. I didn't have the option of going part-time, but I did have to, because I was in a position where I had to disclose everything I did outside. When I decided to go through my certification program and start my business, I had to have that discussion. And at first I'm like, this could mean they could just be like, no, no, you either one, you can't do it, or two, maybe you need to find another job. Right.
Yeah.
And so it was that tricky conversation, and it was surprising how just open they were to it. My manager was very open to it. My HR partner was like, oh, this is great because you're going to be a better leader because of the coaching. And so they saw how it was going to benefit them, which is of course how I prefaced it, right? You had to know how to preface that in the right way, because I was in a leadership role. And, there wasn't that conflict. And so, but I also had to make sure, like, I am giving at least 100% every moment that I am there, so that they never thought that there was a conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. What can people do if they want to get in contact with you, or you have something that you want to share with our group?
Sure. So if the person listening, if you are already like made that transition, or like in that transition of like, I have my service, I have like maybe one or two clients, then I would love to have a triage call with you where we'd look at the profit maximizers part of it, right? I call it a profit maximizer call, because what happens in there is I literally map out where leaks possible are from a marketing perspective, right? I look at like how people are coming in, what their experience is like, and then what happens on the back end. If people are not enrolling into your services or products, then why is that? And we'll kind of look at all of those pieces to look at what possible next steps you can take. And then if it makes sense, I'll make an invitation. And here's the thing. Most people, I feel when they hear like I'll make an invitation or make an offer, they retract. One of the biggest things for me, and I kind of mentioned this in the story a couple of times when I talked about how I transitioned, was I made an offer to my previous employer. And I'm okay with making offers because I'm okay with getting offers made to me as well. If you're not okay with that, if that's still a thing that's kind of like, you kind of close up, you buy the way you sell, right? If you're not open to investing in yourself, investing in your business, people aren't you're gonna reach, like, what's the word I'm looking for? You're going to, like, that's going to seep out of you when you have conversations with people to enroll into your services, right? If you're not open to investing in yourself, if you're closed off to that, people are also going to be closed off, and you're going to create that experience for yourself. You're going to see it back at you when people, and why aren't people buying and enrolling into my services and programs? That's probably why, right? And you have to stretch yourself to get to the next level often. So I'm not saying like going completely into debt. I'm just saying like be smart about it though.
Invest in yourself. Well, and I love, this is, the writer downer for those
Yeah.
watching, you buy the way you sell.
Yeah.
It is so true. And I love, I was having the sales conversation with someone yesterday who's kind of just starting out and trying to figure out the sales and struggling with the confidence, and we walking through things. And, there's so many points to what you just said that are just amazing, because, we like, if you have this hesitancy around sharing with others what you do, then why are you doing it? Like, if you don't have a true sense of you're there to help somebody with something, like if your service is really just having the hard sales conversation. And I was actually just talking to I was catching up with someone right before this call who he did some sales for at other organizations for a little while, and she was like, it was the hard sales, and they didn't care if the client wasn't the exact fit, or they didn't this was like, these were the programs for everybody and everybody would fit into it. And there's different ways in selling, and when you sell that way, you're not serving your audience. And I know, Victor, and I know how you are not going to try to even offer something to someone if they don't fit into what works and what you can provide them,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not going to benefit either of you.
Right.
So I know we talked about this a lot last week when we were talking. It just, there's a right time and a right place for everything, and there's a right coach for everyone, and there's a right time to do ads and get out there and do things. And so when it is right, and Victor is there, and he is an awesome person to utilize and take advantage of this profit maximizer, and he will tell you what you need. He's going to tell you where you have the gaps. He's going to tell you, so go take him up on this offer. We'll post the link in the comment below so you can do that. And if you guys have any other questions for Victor or myself, post them in the comments. It was so great having you here with me, Victor. Thanks for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me as always. I love it.
Yes. And for those of you who are ready to get inspired to resign, go from employee to entrepreneur, make sure you catch us in the Inspired to Resign group, and for more trainings and possibilities there. Also, I hope you all have a great day. See you later.
Bye.